Saudi Arabia's foreign minister is visiting Washington this week, while a whole lot of geopolitical activities are going on, including what the Trump administration has been doing in Venezuela, making a regime change, and also pushing toward what it calls its Monroe Doctrine, but the Western Hemisphere, threatening Colombia, some Central American countries, and even Greenland. While at the same time, Saudi Arabia has been making very assertive actions in Yemen, taking military strikes in Yemen, at the same time getting actively involved in the peace process in Sudan. So that I think there's a convergence between all this that affects our region, being the Red Sea region. So how does what the Trump administration is trying to do globally and now working in partnership with Saudi Arabia affect our region? I believe there's a convergence, and more importantly, how does all this affect Eritrea? I will try to explain. Thank you for tuning in, and welcome to the program. What America is trying to do in the Western Hemisphere, in North America and South America, they refer to it as the Monroe Doctrine. We can call it the Trump strategy, or what Trump believes in, or the Trump doctrine. We'll get into that. But at the same time, I'm trying to associate what it is trying to do in working with Saudi Arabia, something that affects the Red Sea. So we're going to try to relate the two. And when I say the Red Sea, what do I mean? How it shapes Saudi Arabia itself, how it positions it in the Red Sea region, in the Middle East region, actually, including Israel and in Egypt, but at the same time, also the Horn of Africa region of the Red Sea, which is what matters to us. And in this regard, I mean Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, or what I tried to say earlier, the Red Sea bloc. And as I mentioned earlier, what does this moment, what is going on globally, what is going on in our region, mean for Eritrea? I believe Eritrea has an advantage here, and we'll get to that. But I think it's all about, and that's what I started with the Saudi Arabia's foreign minister visit to Washington. Right now it all revolves around what Saudi Arabia is actively doing, and that's what I call this assertive Saudi Arabia. It's been, I think, unlike previous years, it's really flexing its muscles, and it seems to be very clear on a lot of globally the news, the global geopolitical news is taking note of that. For example, if we start with, even if we take a look at some of the headlines lately, these are all from this week. Saudi Arabia draws a red line in Yemen, reasserting Middle East role. So it's taken a more positive, more active role, and it seems to be, of course, directly competing against the UAE. And this BBC headline states something about what happened today. The separatist leader, who actually now fled to UAE, to Abu Dhabi, and following what Saudi Arabia is doing militarily in Yemen. If we follow that note, oh yes, indeed, Saudi Arabia is definitely standing up to UAE, as they put it here, by standing up to Abu Dhabi. Riyadh is reshaping the Middle East. I think we're going to see more and more of that, and I think that's what's happening. And it looks like with the blessing of the USA, of the Trump administration. Again, similarly, there is the dispute between, this is from the FP, the Saudi Arabian UAE dispute is more about just Yemen. Yes, we are noticing what they are trying to do, or a competition of what they try to assert in Yemen, but we can also see that in Sudan and beyond that, in all over the region. So as that is going on, if we just focus on Yemen and Sudan, definitely Saudi Arabia is taking the lead, and if the United States national security strategy says Riyadh should basically lead, and that's what we're going to be seeing. Now, how would the UAE react to this? I think it looks like at the end of the day they will follow what Trump wants them to do, or in order to get what they are trying to get from Trump or from the USA, they're going to have to follow what he's trying to do. And clearly, he's given Saudi Arabia the lead on what it wants to see regionally within the Red Sea region, within the Middle East region. So let's hold that thought. Yes, indeed. Saudi Arabia's assertiveness will play out in a couple of ways, and that is Red Sea security. When we mean Yemen, at the end of the day, for what the United States and the global powers and the international community is concerned, is the Red Sea trade route security. So yes, some of it involves about what's going on inside Yemen, how Yemen will be ruled, and so on. But the more important aspect for the U.S. is the security of the Red Sea, security of the trade route. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia has indicated that the peace in Sudan is important, and MBS has convinced Trump that the U.S. should get involved, and they will take a lead. So these are taken priority, and we're going to see them play out. And they are being played out while, yes, the Trump administration has been in power. Trump has been in power for the last 1 year now in his second term. And it's all playing out with this America first, MAGA, Make America Great Again. Yes, we have seen that in his first administration, but now even more so, even probably 10 times more so. And so what does it really mean? So when America is playing America first, what does it mean for our region? So how does it play out? And with what we have seen in Venezuela and all over South America now, Trump is actively pushing what he calls the Monroe Doctrine. Of course, the Monroe Doctrine is basically saying that they don't want any of the other global powers from Europe or from Asia. It used to be the British or the Japanese or the Chinese. But anyway, and they don't want any superpowers, global superpowers, to come into what they consider their turf, the Western turf or the Western hemisphere, generally speaking, North America and South America. And Trump is now even rebranding that Monroe, named after President Monroe in the old days. Now Trump is owning that, and he's even making the Monroe into Donroe. Here is how he explains it.
Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Donroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in...
Yeah, so in his way of explaining things, he says, okay, it won't happen again, and it won't be questioned again. I don't know who he's actually directly speaking to, but at the end of the day, it's the simplest way of putting what he's saying is maybe this cartoon says it all. This is our hemisphere. This is North America, obviously, is the US and Canada. So when it comes to Canada and the US, of course, nobody touches them. And it's as if I'm not even sure what he is saying to Canada, and then all to these South American countries. But nothing has been more brazen, more obvious, more loud than what Trump did in the last week. Yes, obviously, the United States, the Trump administration, is powerful enough to basically do what it claims. For now, there is no other power that's going to push back on this. But we are here to discuss. So, what does it mean, and what does it mean for our region? Yes, so that's what it means for the Western Hemisphere, for North America and South America. What about for the rest of the world? And here is the best way to understand this is actually to take a deeper look at the national security strategy that the United States published in November. And I did mention this in my previous post about how this national security strategy plays out, what it says about Eritrea and our region. And overall, my assessment is that it's actually the Trump strategy favors Eritrea as far as our region is concerned, as far as Ethiopia is concerned, and so on. But when it comes to this big picture of this, what Trump is calling the Monroe Doctrine or the Monroe Doctrine, or this is our hemisphere, it actually is mentioned there what he wants to see globally based on this idea. So, which means we really don't have to guess what he is saying. It's all stated there. So this is my best understanding of, or my understanding of what it actually means. And globally, as far as for the United States, as far as their priority is concerned, they place them as a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and so on. So tier 1 being the most important. So in tier 1, regionally, the Indo-Pacific is mentioned. This is areas close to India and China, and so it has something to do with Asia. And then specifically, the Red Sea region is mentioned. And then overall, the Middle East, the Persian Gulf, the Middle East countries, and Europe. So again, here to discuss the Red Sea. So Red Sea is in tier 1. Red Sea is part of the top priority. So if that is tier 1, what is in tier 2? In tier 2, they have included Latin America. Well, believe it or not, all the show and all the actions that they are doing in Venezuela and what he is saying as part of Monroe Doctrine, that's actually part of tier 2. So it gives us an idea of how important tier 1 the Red Sea is for the US, and also Africa is under tier 2. To be specific, they mention Africa. They call it Africa excluding the choke points, which means the Red Sea obviously is part of Africa as well, in the Suez Canal and other places. So if it is not part of what they call the choke point, Bab el Mandeb, Suez Canal, and so on, Africa in general is tier 2, and then Central Asia, which means excluding the Indo-Pacific region and the Middle East. Central Asia is also part of tier 2. Now, lower than that will be tier 3. They literally call it tier 3 would be everything else. So it shows you how the priorities are stacked. So with that in mind, knowing that the Red Sea is part of their tier 1 or higher level, and now working with Saudi Arabia, or at least giving Saudi Arabia the regional lead to what they want to do in the Middle East, what they want to do in the Red Sea region, which means the larger Abraham Accord, which involves improving relations with Israel, what's going on in Yemen, the peace in Sudan. It involves a lot of things here. So going back to that national security strategy, they specifically mention this regional security burden for all the tiers that they mentioned, for all the regions within those tiers. They're kind of working with, they're leaving it to the regional countries to say, okay, this is your neighborhood. So with the Monroe Doctrine, this is our neighborhood, as Trump liked to call it. For the rest of the tiers, it is your neighborhood, your responsibility, and this is what we want be done. Now we will work with you kind of in a transactional way. It doesn't mean they are handing that over to the regional or local countries. It is even the burden of the security to the locals. Now, let's delve into it. So what does it really mean? What does this particular thing mean for the Red Sea? The way they stated it, the Red Sea is the world's most fragile economic artery. Yes, it's part of the major tiers for the US and for global trade and so on. But out of all the tiers and out of all the regions they have, the most fragile is actually the Red Sea, especially with what's going on in Yemen and in Gaza, between Israel and the Palestinians, and what's going on in Sudan is affected in many, many ways, including, at least potentially, with what could go on with Ethiopia and Eritrea, as well as something that affects that. Not to mention something that affects Somaliland and Somalia. So in many, many ways, the Red Sea region is fragile. Yes, we did look at the Monroe Doctrine, or the Trump Doctrine, let's call it, just for a case of simplicity, the Trump Doctrine, or what Trump wants to see. But how do we gauge that? Let's make it specific to our region, but how do we actually measure what he's trying to do globally, and then focus that? Then the doctrine, or what the Trump policy basically is saying, to the best of my understanding, is that America is the enforcer. It's not going to manage, or as he calls it, police of the globe, or they become the referee, or they manage or micromanage things everywhere. But here it is, as Trump puts it, it's the enforcer, which means if they need to use power, if they need to use their diplomatic power or military power, they will, or economic power, or sanctions. So America is the kind of the enforcer. We can call it a bully if you want to, but not the manager. Means we really don't care who wins or who loses, or there is no ideology between preference. At the end of the day, America first means if it's good for America, it will be good for America. They really don't care who else it's good for. He's making it very blunt. At least that's my understanding. As out of the 4 pillars, that's pillar 1. The second one is, as I actually just said, it's not ideology. There is no preference. It's transaction. It is. In fact, I try to call it an honest transaction. At least they are not pretending. At least they are not saying, okay, because of our values, because of our democracy, because of our human rights, or higher aspirations of what we want to see in the world. There is no pretense anymore. I don't think they did not believe. Previously, they probably believed in their ideals as well, but Trump is making it very clear. We really don't care. What's good for America is what all we are interested in. And so, which means they don't care if you are a communist or an imperialist or a democrat or a dictatorship. They really don't care. So transactions over ideology. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is a monarchy. It's not a democracy, and value-wise or system-wise, it couldn't be any farther from where the U.S. is. But as far as transaction and making agreements and making deals, they are best friends. So he's putting it that way. And then the third part of that pillar is also when it comes to what Trump calls their enemies, and for now, it's to be specific, it is China, it is Iran, it is like there is no room, there is no we will work with them. Yes, they are trading partners, especially with China, and there's a lot of intermingling of their economies and so on. But when it comes to competition of who is going to get what, at least in Trump's simple world, it is zero sum. We get Venezuela's oil, they don't. We tell them that when it comes to Iran, that they need to get out of Syria or stop enriching uranium. That's the end of it. Zero sum, zero negotiations type of deals. So does this mean he can actually get that done everywhere, every time, forever? Probably not, but at least that's the attitude. So zero sum. Then the fourth part of what his style or his doctrine is, it's personal diplomacy. It's not even what Congress wants, what the US wants, or what the Republicans want. It's what Trump wants. And when it comes to the other parties as well, it's just making deals with leaders, with presidents, with kings, with whoever is in charge. So that's Trump style. It's personal diplomacy. And sometimes it boils down to he likes that person, that person likes him, and deals happen. It's almost like a CEO of a corporation dealing with another CEO on personal basis. And that's been Trump style. So to quickly recap, it is America is the enforcer. We don't care about the details of what is going on. Transaction over ideology. It could be Israel, it could be Saudi Arabia, it could be North Korea, it could be Iran. He will make a deal with Putin. He will make a deal with Ukraine, whatever it takes. Zero sum when it comes to China. There is no, let's leave this is from the areas that they identified. There's nothing. The world belongs to all of us, and China can also make deals with Brazil or Venezuela or something. It is, if he can make it happen, it is zero sum. Same thing with Iran. And then, as I mentioned, the personal diplomacy part. Now, if that is the case, so where does this place Saudi Arabia as I'm going to call it as a regional enforcer? It may not have the same power, same ability, or same weight as the US, but now with Saudi Arabia, the US is also squarely behind it. So when it comes to certain things, I don't think Trump would mind Saudi Arabia taking the lead and also the enforcer of its turf. Okay. Exactly what? Of course, whatever it's trying to enforce, it better be good for America also. So it's all about America first. It's all about what Trump wants. And among a few things, I think we can mention a few things, but things that when it comes to the region, anything that contains Iran, Saudi Arabia would be happy to do so. And so would the US. Anything that says, okay, we are blocking Iran from getting it. Anything that's at this time the Houthis are same as Iran as far as they are concerned. So anything that neutralizes the Houthis in Yemen, and anything that takes power away from them, the US would be behind it. The Saudi Arabia obviously is exactly what that's exactly what it wants to do. Then when it comes to the larger Middle East, and not only the Red Sea region, anything that normalizes relations with Israel back to their Abraham Accord, they will be going for it. So you can say it's all in partnership between Israel and Saudi Arabia and the US at the end of the day, what they will try to do or what they will try to push. And at the same time, this is an election year, and the US's global power and global dominance also depends on stabilizing the oil markets so that they could. It doesn't work for them when there is a chaotic oil market, especially in an election year in the US. It's a very complicated topic here and controversial as well. But if you want to stabilize oil prices, the best way to do it, and of course the US now it's the largest oil producing country, I believe, at this time, even more than Saudi Arabia. Now they also have the control over the oil in Venezuela. So really manipulate the market, the oil markets, that's what you need. And of course, obviously, Saudi Arabia is a key factor to that. And something that affects us is the let's refer to it as the order in the Horn of Africa. Now, a peaceful Sudan is necessary for what Saudi Arabia is trying to do on their side of the coast, to build all this tourism and all this other order that they're trying to bring to the Middle East and to the Red Sea region. So definitely peace and order in the Horn of Africa matters. Now, a large part of that is what could potentially go on between Eritrea and Ethiopia. And as we have seen recently, and Saudi Arabia has squarely stood beside Eritrea and assured Eritrea of many economic benefits. Hopefully, we'll see a lot of them transpire over the coming years. But Saudi Arabia, as a wealthy regional power, will definitely have an effect of a say of what's going on in Somalia, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Sudan, the entire Horn of Africa. So, as we get closer to what it means for Eritrea, I think it boils down to, okay, in this game plan, including, I think we can include the US here because that's the topic today. But what the partnership that's building strongly and getting stronger and stronger is between Egypt and Eritrea, bilaterally, between Eritrea and Saudi Arabia, between Eritrea and Sudan, is as strong as it gets. What Egypt promised to do, in partnership with, militarily, intelligence-wise, economic, it's the strongest it's been, the relationship between Eritrea and Egypt. And I think we can say the same thing with Saudi Arabia. We can say the same thing with Sudan. And Sudan, its peace process is taking shape, and Eritrea will be a key positive player in that. They will need Eritrea to be part of that. And they all have mentioned, the US have said that, Egypt has said that, Sudan has said that, Saudi Arabia has said that. But anyway, working on the bloc, or the frequent meetings that's been going on between these four leaders, as we have seen it, will be part of that picture. So this being the countries, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, while all this is going on, maybe it's inevitable, the multilateralism, or the traditional organizations like the UN, the African Union, the Arab League, they are becoming less and less irrelevant, or less relevant. Their relevance is not as much as it used to be. So even when Eritrea withdrew from IGAD, another less relevant, dysfunctional organizations, even the rest of them, the power is being taken away now with what Trump is trying to do. Obviously, Trump is not going to be president forever, but with the way the US is doing things, with the way even America is likely to continue, with the way, with the rise of China and other powers, and we didn't even mention Turkey and Russia and other places, the UN is becoming less and less important, even though it's kind of the only thing, the only multilateral organization that could actually matter in the future. But when it comes to African Union, I don't think even if it goes away tomorrow, I don't think things change much within Africa. And at least when it comes to this regionally identified top-tier region for the US, these regional organizations, maybe they will have a role, but their role keeps diminishing, which is to say, nobody is counting on any of this for their future or for their immediate future. So overall, as we wrap up, with the way Trump works, with the way Trump thinks, with the way the Republicans in Congress, the MAGA ideology, it is all kind of when it comes to geopolitics and game, it's kind of, you never know what tomorrow would hold. Even everything that I mentioned here, even though some of it is mentioned in the national security strategy written, I don't think we can count on it to say that's exactly what they will do. In fact, a lot of things will be still up in the air and unpredictable. And so let's bring it closer to home now. So if it is kind of a poker game, a game of transactional power, I'll give you my card and you give me yours, and see if we can make a trade kind of world, not only between the US and Saudi Arabia, or the US and other countries, or Saudi Arabia, or the regional countries. I think it's globally that's what's going on. Yes, America is saying America first, but what we will see in the rest of them is Israel is saying Israel first, Russia is saying Russia first, China is saying China first. So everybody is becoming more and more selfish. So in this world, in this kind of global dynamics, how does Eritrea's card stack up? Of course, it's all about, okay, do you have the power? Do you have the wealth? Do you have the oil? Do you have the resource? Do you have the location? So let's focus on our Eritrea. I believe Eritrea's cards include location, because yes, the Red Sea is identified as it always was, but specifically today, as a top-tier region for the superpower, for the US, and so is for the rest of the world. It is a global artery for China and Europe, and it's for everyone. So location, where Eritrea is geographically located, is part of its great asset. It always was, but even more so today. Eritrea's ports, Massawa and Assab, they've been kind of been irrelevant or bypassed so far, but because of their location and because of the way geopolitics is working, Massawa and Assab are going to be even more important. And the interest that we have seen from Saudi Arabia and from Egypt, whatever it transpires, it could also be from other countries. It will make them more important and more valuable. Again, what else does Eritrea offer? Stability. Yes, its internal stability matters, because when a country is fragile, when a country has internal insurgency and civil war, it's useless for the rest of the world, because it cannot be counted on. But when it's strategically located and it has stability, that means something could be counted on. So internal stability is a big asset for Eritrea. That's why Eritrea is kind of playing peacemaker, even when it comes to Sudan and so on. And then it's independence, which means not independence as a sovereign state, all of them are, but as a country that is not owned by another superpower or being a client state. I don't think there is any regional or global power that can say Eritrea is ours. We can tell Eritrea what to do whenever we want to. China can't say that. Russia can't say that. The US can't say that. So Eritrea's independence, being non-aligned, makes it gives it a better cards. And then when it comes to relationship with Saudi Arabia, good relations. When it comes to Egypt, good relations. When it comes to Sudan, on the side of the winners, and also and good relations. So this all, at least when it comes to what we are talking about, what does it mean for the Red Sea? This gives Eritrea great assets. Then there is the you can call it a dilemma, but there's the additional connection. Eritrea has also good relations with China and Russia. And when it comes to dealing with the superpowers, I don't know. Maybe in the zero-sum doctrine of Trump, maybe it will be either with us or with them kind of deal. But at the end of the day, Saudi Arabia has good relations or working relations with China and Russia, and so does Egypt, and Eritrea will probably have the same thing. I don't think it will be a problem, but for Eritrea, it will be because yes, it has good hands. Yes, it has good opportunity, but at the same time, it is still at a disadvantage because there is the U.S. sanction. There is not a normal relations with the West, with most of Europe, and definitely not with the West, with the U.S. and Canada and so on. But having this other relations also gives it leverage, because it could. I think it could use it part of as a way to negotiate, as a way to normalize things. But at the end of the day, I believe what Eritrea has in the ones that I mentioned, and I definitely want to hear from you guys, from the ones who are watching this, to also point to me what else Eritrea has as part of its leverage or good hands. But diplomatically, I think it's in good place. So my whole presentation revolved around Saudi Arabia and the U.S. and the region, and what does it mean for Eritrea. I hope it boils down to, or it leads to, one, sanctions removal, because that sanction is a shock. And as the engagement between Eritrea and the U.S., hopefully we see more and more of it in 2026. The sanctions removal, given all this alignment, I hope it leads to sanctions removal and investment in the infrastructure, especially the ports and hopefully energy and roads and so on. Because working with these wealthy partners and powers hopefully means that, because at the end of the day, what good is it if it doesn't translate to that? And hopefully, I'm not exactly sure how it plays out, but hopefully it also includes a security partnership, not only about how to secure the Red Sea, but how to secure Eritrea, and how to make sure that Eritrea doesn't have to spend a whole chunk of its budget and mindset in defense from Ethiopia. So hopefully there will be some kind of security agreements and partnerships, starting from Egypt, Saudi Arabia to the U.S., which ends up with Eritrea having to worry less and less about its sovereignty and peace and so on. So as we wrap up, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody honestly likes what Trump is doing, and as people from all over the globally are not happy with this his imperial way of doing things. There is not even a pretense of caring for the other party, and it's probably going to get worse. In my opinion, what they are doing in Venezuela this is just the tip of the iceberg, but the track record of what they have done in Libya and in Afghanistan and in Iraq is not good. And hopefully Venezuela will be spared from that, but it doesn't look like it. But at the end of the day, there is no guessing anymore. It is what I like to call a more honest transactional diplomacy. What you see is what you get. Show me what you have, and if it fits my benefit, I will make a deal with you. Probably Eritrea has tried the other side of U.S. doctrine as well. But hopefully, maybe this is better. Maybe this is more honest. There is no pretense anymore. But at the end of the day, even in the U.S., this will not last forever, because Trump came to power because he was elected. Maybe the next round of election will also give him more power. There's a midterm election in 2026. The dynamics may change. That may even encourage Trump to swing the other way. The pendulum may go the other way. And that's 2026. In 2028, there will be a change of presidency. And so he is not here to stay. But whatever this window of let's call it window of opportunity, for a lack of a better term. Hopefully for Eritrea, it's actually an actual window of opportunity given what's going on geopolitically in our region. Hopefully before this shuts off, before this changes, actually it might start changing in 2026 with the midterm elections. Hopefully something good comes out of it. So that's all I have to say for today. Thank you for tuning in. If you like fact-based analysis like this, the best way to support this channel is actually by engaging with it, liking, sharing, subscribing. I really encourage you to hit subscribe right now. And by commenting. I read all your comments. They really influence on what I do and what I will be discussing next. But for today, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.
بس كتشم ما كبر عدي عدي رأي خلاني أنس رأي خلاني الرأي رأي خلاني صباح طيك بتخوني